friends and family, to today's edition of the Wellness Homesteader. So today we're going to do something a little bit different. It is, oh wow, it's up to 32 now. We're having a very chilly start to our frosty Ohio day. However, tomorrow it's going to be nearly 80, so that's the whole, you start out in sweats and a sweatshirt, and you end the day in a tank top and shorts and flip-flops. But at any rate, I'm finally getting around to, y'all, I want to use my grain thing that I bought, flaker. Sorry, it's not a thing, it's a flaker. And it's called a FLic FLoc. So I haven't used it yet. How I learned about this was honestly watching Jessica over at Three Rivers Homestead. She is such a lovely lady with a lovely family. She works circles around me, and I'm not a lazy person. She is due in about 6 weeks with her 9th child. She's 43. Good Christian family. The kids all work together, and she's busy nesting. And so one of the things that she was having one of her daughters help her with is running some oat groats through the FLic FLoc. So I, like I said, have not used it. And what I've learned, honestly, is not from the booklet that came with it, because I don't speak, I think it's German. And on the back it says, if this isn't your language, please have a look at our homepage. Well, that was absolutely worthless. So I ended up Googling, and I have to tell you all, there's not a lot of, pardon me, directions with it. Kind of common sense. One of the things that Jessica said, and she has the same model I do, is that you're supposed to run 2 cups of rice through it, you know, to clean the blades, to clean any oil from manufacturing. So we're going to do that first. I have some white rice that I've had for quite some time. I'm sure it's still good. I just, you know, my mom ruined me on rice. My mom went through her Asian phase, and we had so much rice that I'm just not a huge fan. I don't hate it, but I have to really be in the mood for it. So first thing I'm going to do, let me tip you down and just show you a little bit about it, and then I'm going to run the grain through. So it is very, very pretty. It has a crank, so you need to run it on the edge of the counter like this. And when you turn the handle, you can feel, I'm assuming they're a blade of sort, or a roller blade. You can feel the grind of it, and then it comes with this little cup that you slide in and catch whatever it is that you're grinding. Now, I'm not going to tell you what all it can grind, because I could not find it on the actual Como website. I could only find it on random websites. So it does come with a clamp. You know, the way my countertops are made, it's really hard for me to clamp this down. So I'm probably gonna hold and crank. And I did notice her daughter was doing the same thing. So let me just show you the start of it. So here's our first cup of rice. The receptacle, quite small, so I'm not sure if it's gonna hold. Let me tell you what it'll hold. I think about half a cup. So it would be easier if you could lock it down. So it's just cracking those rice grains, and then I, of course, will discard what I run through. So easy to use, get your work on. And you know, y'all, maybe I'll take it over to the end of the countertop and see if I can get it latched down. Where I have the wood trim, it makes it hard, but I do have an overhang at the end of the, I don't know if you call this an island or whatever, but I barely made a dent in it. It smells really good though, do have to say that. So let me get this cleaned. I'm going to reposition some things, and then I haven't even told you what we're going to make, but you're going to have to stay tuned to find out. You know, I could not find on any website that I looked at any instructions about the rice, but it makes good sense to me, because I'm sure they oil bearings and blades and such as part of the final test of the product. So it's not going to hurt anything because rice is one of the things. It also says you can do corn. But today, y'all, we are going to be making some sugar-free homemade granola. Now, y'all, don't click off. Don't do it. Just because you don't like sugar-free items, this does not have artificial sweetener. And you obviously can add sweetener of your choice. You can add honey. You can add agave. You could add maple syrup. You could add, I looked at a lot of different recipes because my go-to recipe has a lot of oil and a lot of sugar, which most store preparations of granola will have both. So I purchased these organic oat groats from Azure. So what is an oat groat? Well, it's an unrolled oat. So can y'all see? It looks like a cross between rice and a seed. So I'm going to be using a recipe today from mjandhungryman.com. I will link the recipe below. I will link the FlicFLoc. Did I say that right? FlicFLoc. Below as well, if you have interest. So it's a good day to make something like this, to not be in a huge hurry. Some slow living practice today as well. And it calls for 3 cups. So it's going to take me a while, but y'all, cranking it down to the counter is the key, because holding my arm on it, even though I had to kind of hold my arm on it, it hurts over time because it's kind of sharp on the top, or pointed. It's not sharp. So let me reposition the camera, and I'm not going to make you stay through 3 whole cups of oats, but I want to show you what they look like to start and what they will look like once they are rolled. I'm going to put them off into a separate bowl. All of our dry ingredients will go into one bowl. Then we'll get onto our wet ingredients, get our oven preheated, because this needs to bake for 40 minutes. So it's a perfect day to do that. Instead of running my central heating system, the oven will provide quite a bit of heat. And hopefully once the sun's up, I won't need to run the heat a whole bunch. Those days are coming. When you live in Ohio, that's just the way it is. All right, guys, I hope you'll stay tuned. The struggle is real, y'all. Frankie's like, I see you has a project. I too like projects. So he's gonna have to move over a little bit. But at any rate, let me tip you back up here and over a little bit. Please excuse all my projects over here. So I do have this very secure, like I can't move it. I'm going to slide the cup under, and this is a 1 cup measure, so I don't have to measure the groats. I just need to measure the rolled oats. So let's fill this up a little bit. And then again, I think it's easier if you kind of hold on to it. I'm going to roll out some, and then I'm going to show you the difference between the 2 oats. Now, granola does have carbs in it. I am well aware of that. Everything in moderation. But I think this is about the healthiest version I can come up with. Uh-oh. Getting loose here, or I don't know my own strength. All right, that's probably enough for me to show you. Can y'all see? They look a bit different than commercial rolled oats, but they are definitely rolled and no longer the hard groat. So why on earth would I go through all of this headache? Why not just buy organic regular granola? Well, I'm going to share that with you in just a moment. So why would you go to all of the work of rolling your own oats? The biggest reason for me is they are more nutrient dense than pre-rolled oats that you buy at the store. I'll say it that way. And you can certainly buy organic rolled oats. You can buy quick oats. I don't know if they have organic quick oats, but the increased nutrition to me makes it worth it. Another good reason is they have a toastier taste and they can be sweeter. So if you're trying to reduce your sugar intake, that can be a good reason that you might want to try rolling your own oats and working out your arms. Yes, Frankie. Okay, so what it looks like to me is about half a cup of the groats make about 2/3 a cup of rolled. So I'm gonna keep rolling until I have my 3 cups. Then I'll bring you back. We'll see what other ingredients I'm choosing to add this morning. Stay tuned. Okay, y'all, we have our 3 cups of rolled oats. And the next thing the recipe calls for is a cup of nuts of your choice. So I'm just using what I have on hand, which is pecans. So these are pecan pieces, so just the right size for a cereal. And I'll do some vacuum sealing when we get all finished here. So we'll add our pecans. And the next thing is 3 tablespoons of ground flaxseed. So I have the Anthony's Ultrafine Cold Mill Organic Flaxseed. So let's put in 3 tablespoons of that. More or less. So I'm really excited to see how this tastes, because what I can tell you is when I was rolling these oats, the nutty smell, I've never thought about oats really having a smell in their raw form. They definitely do when you are grinding them from oat groats. 2 and 3. All right. Next item is 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. And I like Ceylon cinnamon. I think it has more flavor. There is some research that says cinnamon can be beneficial in lowering blood sugar. Not my claim. It's the researcher's claim. If you want a little bit more, I think this will be just fine, because my applesauce, which we will get to in a moment, is pretty heavily spiced with cinnamon as well. All right, and then about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So even though we're not sweetening this, I am gonna add the little bit of salt. I'm just using a pinch of Redmond's. So the next thing we're going to do is our wet ingredients. So I'm gonna go ahead and preheat my oven to 300 degrees and grab a baking sheet. It says line it with parchment paper, or you can use the silicone mat, which is what I'm gonna use. We're gonna use unsweetened applesauce, unsweetened peanut butter, my homemade applesauce, which is sweetened with maple syrup, so technically mine has a little bit of sweetener in it. Vanilla extract, and then optional is 2 to 3 tablespoons of maple syrup, honey, date syrup, you know, sweetener of your choice, which I am going to omit. So let me get the oven turned on, stir up our dries. We'll get measuring out our wet, and before you know it, we are gonna have some really good, no added sugar granola. All right, y'all, I decided I'd do the cleanup while we wait for it to bake, since it does take quite a bit of time. So the first thing we need is 3/4 cup of our applesauce. I always have trouble with this thing. It's really nice though. So this is an OXO measuring cup that's really nice for sticky things like peanut butter. It has both a liquid fill and a dry or a solid fill. I'm going to use the liquid fill. For the applesauce, it won't stick. I'm not terribly concerned about spraying it. So let's get our applesauce in. I'm going to use this applesauce. Or Merry Christmas, guess what I made you? It's absolutely delicious. I just have to say, applesauce is not one of my go-tos, not because I dislike it. It's just, you know, never really been, and I'm not throwing that away either, a regular part of my diet. So here we go. Then you can just, push out your applesauce. Scrape it off. And we need a 1/3 cup of creamy peanut butter. Now I did the peanut butter discussion, I think, on a recent video. And I will tell y'all, when you switch from a sugared product or traditionally commercially made product to something that's more natural, it can be a little off-putting at first, but I have to tell you, y'all, I kind of grown to like this peanut butter. So I'm gonna give it a quick spray here and scrape this off really well. It does say that if your peanut butter is real firm, so if you're not, some of the non-sugar-free ones are pretty stiff. You can heat it a little bit in the microwave. I think it's going to be a little bit too runny if I do that. So there we go on that. Yeah, this is plenty loose with the applesauce. Who doesn't love some peanut butter? Okay, next it calls for a teaspoon of vanilla extract. I'm going to kick it up a notch. I'm going to use a little bit of maple extract since we're not adding the maple syrup, but I don't want it to be overpowering. So that was like a 1/4 teaspoon, and then about a teaspoon of vanilla. And you know, that's it for ingredients. Now, you're probably like, well, where's the dried fruit? You don't add the dry fruit until after you bake it. So you can well imagine that I'm going to be using raisins. I don't happen to have any dried cranberries. How'd that happen? And I've looked twice in my long-term pantry. So I'm thinking I just need to buy some more, right? So this is kind of a little looser than peanut butter. So let's get this all mixed together. And then we're going to spread it out onto our baking sheet. Again, lined with parchment or a Silpat, silicone baking mat. Silpat is the brand name, but facial tissue. Oh, sorry guys. Facial tissue. Wait, let me see if I could clump that one more time. Will forever be known as Kleenex to me. So I will share a little something. I feel so much better, y'all. Can you tell? So I'm going to tell you a little story. I use what we call back in the OG, a water pick, but they're called water flossers. And they're wonderful when you have implants because flossing just doesn't necessarily do the trick. And if you like to eat whole grains and seeds, that can get stuck up there and it's not good. However, for a month after the implants, I'm not supposed to use my water flosser. Might be going through a little withdrawal. So let me think about days here. I think it was Saturday. Maybe it was Sunday. I can't remember. I think, no, it was Saturday. It wasn't yesterday. I started getting nervous because I had swelling more inside my mouth than on my face, but a little poof right here. And it still got a little poof. It's not just fat. And it hurt. It's been sore, but it hasn't been painful. You know, I'm 10 days post-op. Shouldn't be painful. So I'm like, oh, great. You know, is my body rejecting the implant? What's going on? And you're not supposed to vigorously swish and split. I am using a prescription mouthwash that you use for a month post-op as well. I'm trying to do everything possible to get through this without a complication, because I've had my share of complications in the past. And as I've shared before, when you have lupus, sometimes your body's like, wait, that's not a real part of you. That's just my oven telling me it's ready. So I got kind of scared. And I thought, you know what? maybe something's up in there. This one's pretty flat. This one has a little bit of a hole. And indeed, I had a tiny, tiny, tiny piece of sloppy Joe caught up in there. So when I swished and spit, out came the meat. And by the next morning, it was like a miracle. So, all right. So the next thing is spread on a baking tray. Be sure to press it down. So these are, it's not like flaked granola. It's more like granola clusters. So let's take a pretty blue Pyrex bowl, kind of turn things out. A lot of the recipes I looked at had egg white versus the peanut butter and the applesauce. And while that would work, I've shared before, my girlie's eggs are precious to me. And Violet, bless her heart, I love her to death, but she is an odd chicken. She is my egg eater. And I was probably out there 15 times yesterday, and my girls, I got Winona's egg, but she hasn't bothered Winona. She's like, that's my baby's egg. I don't eat my baby's eggs, but she's eating the other eggs. So I did a little bit of research, and I haven't always been super faithful on adding oyster shell calcium. I know better because she's done the egg eating before. This is not completely new, but I've never seen it quite this bad. It says when they have a calcium deficiency. So they're all dosed up with calcium. I hope to let them out to free range some tomorrow. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter what shape it's in because we're going to break it apart anyway, but just kind of get it like evenly thick. All right, into the oven. It says for 40 minutes, 40 to 45, halfway through. Pardon me. We're gonna flip and press them down together again. And then I'll bring you back at that time. We'll add our fruit. We'll give it a taste test. And I'm pretty excited for this. I do have their nutrition information, not certifying it's correct, but it looks fairly correct. Granola is calorie dense and for me, should be eaten in limited quantities. So I'll see you shortly. Welcome back, guys. I like my granola really well done. So I did the full 45 minutes and here's what we have. Y'all, it smells heavenly. I really can smell the peanut butter. Now, how hard this will be for me to chew, I'm not sure. I flipped it halfway through. Ugh, it smells amazing. So let's give it a taste. The way I like my granola, honestly, is on yogurt. Wow, that's a lot to chew. Sorry, y'all. My chew isn't back real good. Definitely not sweet. So I want it to cool a little more. I'm going to add about a cup of raisins to this amount. Now, again, these are not my calculations. It doesn't give a serving size. It says 100 calories, 10 grams of carb, 3 grams of protein, 6 grams of fat, 41 of sodium, 2 of fiber, 1 of sugar, and I don't know if that's with or without the syrup they recommended, and a milligram of iron. You know, you're getting a lot more fiber, and it helps you feel fuller longer. This is, pardon me, this is amazing. The pecans were a good choice because those oats have a very nutty flavor. So a couple tips for you on storing granola. You've got to make sure it's absolutely cool. If you put it in an airtight container, and I just have those cereal jugs from Walmart, that's what I'm gonna put it in. If you do that before it's completely cool, it gets soggy and it is not good. So I'm gonna wait, it's still pretty warm, until it's completely cool. I'm gonna add my raisins and store it away, and then I will have some Greek yogurt with a little bit of this on top for an added crunch. You could add fruit to it as well. So this is a definite repeat. Again, I will link the recipe in the description box below. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. And you know, y'all, if you're not concerned about sugar, or you find some of the no sugar added products like peanut butter off-putting, I admit I did it first too, but I've gotten used to it and I really like it now because it tastes like peanuts. You could use some sugar added peanut butter. You could use a higher sugar applesauce. You could add honey. You could add maple syrup, sweetener of your choice. I did see some recipes that said you could add the granulated sugar substitute. I just don't see that that works well with, you know, a granola cluster, but that's my opinion. So drop me a comment below. Are you willing to try some? I'm going to call, pardon me, I'm going to call this no sugar added granola, because we're going to get some sugars too from the raisins. And I think that's going to add just the right amount of sweetness for me. And again, I buy the honey vanilla yogurt, so it does have a little bit of honey in it. So I hope to see you all later on this week. It's looking good for this week. It is not looking good on the hiccups, y'all. I'm so sorry. And for those of you who are new, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I'm very sorry that I hiccup so much. Sometimes it's only one or two. Sometimes it goes on for an hour or two. If it does that, I just cut off the camera and I come back to it. I've left my oven door cracked. It warmed up the house a degree. But I'll take every degree I can get. It's a gorgeous fall day. So I'm hoping to film a little bit tomorrow, since I do plan on being outside. Thank you all for your kind comments on my Sunday bonus video. If you didn't see it, it is in my video playlist. Had to do with in-home safety. Just a little bit of an update. Nothing new to report. And I'm really glad for that. So don't forget to smash that like button. Don't forget to leave me a comment. And until I see you again, be healthy, be well, be blessed, and take care.